So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our 2020 Ikeda Forum this evening. And so we will start our event at 7 p.m. But in the meantime, please enjoy this slideshow featuring young people in our Ikeda Center community, sharing what value creation means to them. And we were hoping that as you read through these different value creation statements, we want to invite you to also start thinking about what value creation means to you. And lastly, we always love to hear where everyone's tuning in from. So if you want to use the chat function to post your location, we can see all the different places that our participants are joining in from. So thank you all so much. We'll be starting shortly. Folks joining us from Arlington, right here in Massachusetts, from Toronto in California. Thank you so much. Oh, Sapporo, Japan. Thank you so much for joining all the way from Japan. And just a note to our participants, when you're using the chat function, there's actually a way, if you, under the colon section, you can click panelists or panelists and attendees. And if you click panelists and attendees, then you can see what each other are posting in the chat. Right now, it's just coming to us as panelists, but you can utilize that function. Wonderful. We have more people joining from Toronto. Hello, Ron from Cambridge, Massachusetts, Tennessee, Oklahoma City, Japan. Thank you all so much for joining. We will be starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you were joining just a couple minutes earlier, we were sharing that the slideshow that you're watching right now is featuring young people in our Ikeda Center community, sharing what value creation means to them. And we want to invite you all to think about what value creation means to you as well. So yes, we'll get started very soon. Thank you all so much. We're joining from Aliso Viejo, California, from Georgia. Hello, Wendy from Malaysia, amazing, and Mexico. Hello from San Francisco. Thank you all so much. Oh, we have someone joining us from Brazil, and again, also from Georgia. Thank you all so much. If you're just joining us now, what you're seeing right now on the screen is a slideshow of young people sharing in our community, in our Ikeda Center community, sharing what value creation means to them. And so we wanted to use this as an opportunity to help everyone start thinking also about your own ideas on value creation. So please enjoy. We're also inviting participants to share where you're tuning in from. So if you haven't yet, you can utilize the chat function to share your location. As you can see, we have participants joining us from all around the world. So thank you all so much. Hello from Japan. Hello from Colorado, Brooklyn, and Georgia, California, Charlotte, North Carolina. Thank you so much. Chicago. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. So if anyone's experiencing like technical difficulties, or if you have questions for staff, there's a Q&A box where you can submit any questions and our staff members will respond as soon as possible. Otherwise, you can utilize the chat function to share where you're tuning in from. And we'll get started in just a couple more minutes. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Wow, greetings from Amsterdam. Thank you for joining. And New Orleans. Hello from Tokyo. Must be early. I hope you had breakfast. Thank you all so much. We'll be starting in just about 1 more minute. And if you're just joining us and you're thinking, what is it that I'm looking at right now? This is a slideshow of young people in our Ikeda Center community sharing about what value creation means to them. And if you haven't had the chance yet, maybe reflect a little bit on what value creation might mean to you based on what you see the youth are sharing, and we'll have many more opportunities to reflect together as we get our event started. So thank you so much. Oh, we have folks from Israel, Italy, Toronto, Australia. Amazing. Thank you all so much. We are at 190 participants from all around the world. So thank you all so much for joining. We'll start in just a couple more seconds, I believe. Thank you. Hello from Michigan, Brazil, India. Thank you all so much. I hope you all got good rest if you are joining at an early time. Thank you all so much. Hello from New Jersey, Jersey City. Hello from Pittsburgh. Thank you all so much. So just a friendly reminder, I mentioned this earlier, but if you have any questions for our staff members, you can utilize the Q&A box, which you can find either at the bottom or at the top maybe right now, and our staff members will get back to you. But otherwise, you can utilize the chat to share where you're joining in from. Hello from Costa Rica, and Philly, Texas, California. I'm in Boston now and it's freezing, so I'm just imagining all the warm places that you're all in. Hello from Germany and Canada. Thank you all so much for joining. Hello from India. It's 5:30 a.m. Oh my goodness. I hope you have a strong cup of coffee right next to you. Thank you so much. Hello from Brazil. Wonderful. Great. So it's 7:02. And so I want to officially welcome everyone to our first ever virtual Ikeda Forum. As you can tell from my voice, we are beyond excited to be here with all of you this evening. Let me see, 232 of you and counting, joining us from so many countries around the world across different time zones. So thank you all so much for waking up early, staying up late, or joining us over dinner, perhaps. So thank you once again. So I wish, I could see all of your faces this evening, but I will have to use the power of my imagination instead. So I'm just picturing all of your smiling faces. So thank you for joining us. It's hard to believe that it's December already, and what a year it has been, which is why we're so happy to be exploring together with all of you this very timely topic of value creation, and why it is this unlimited power that we each have to face overwhelming challenges, both in our own lives and in the world at large. So tonight we will have many opportunities to reflect, learn, and engage in what value creation means, starting with opening words by our program director, Kevin Marr, followed by a fun icebreaker to gauge our understanding of value creation. And then the main event of the evening will be an intergenerational panel discussion between Dr. Anita Patterson, Dr. Jason Gula, and three incredible youth, Vivian Suhanowski, Anna Lane, and William Moody. So please look forward to meeting with them very soon. And we'll also have a Q&A at the end of the panel and an exciting takeaway activity that we can all participate in. And finally, closing remarks by our wonderful Executive Director, Ginny Benson. And so I hope you're all feeling excited already. But before we jump into the agenda, I thought I could share just a little background on our center for those of you who might be joining us or learning about us for the first time. So we are the Ikeda Center for Peace, Learning, and Dialogue. And the center was founded in 1993. And our mission since then has been to build cultures of peace through learning and dialogue. And so all of our work, which includes hosting public events, seminars, publications, and research, is really aimed at helping to establish a shared global ethic across cultures and religions. An ethic based on respect for the absolute dignity of life itself, a firm belief in the human potential for good and for transforming the world, and a clear recognition of the interdependence of all life. Our founder, Daisaku Ikeda, who is a peace builder, writer, educator, and Buddhist leader, really established this center with the hopes that people from all walks of life, all different faiths, ethnicities, backgrounds, experiences can come together to engage in open-hearted, open-minded dialogue, which he believes is the surest path to peace. So though we cannot see or talk to all of you during this webinar, we hope tonight we can all try to imagine all of us being in a room or in front of the fireplace or wherever you imagine us to be, really sharing, listening, reflecting, and learning together. So perhaps we can take a second to close our eyes, and then when we open our eyes again, we can imagine all of us being together. So without further ado, let's get our 2020 Ikeda Forum started. And so I would now like to invite our program director, Kevin Marr, to share opening words.
Thank you so much, Lillian. So good evening and good afternoon and good late evening to all of you. Thank you so much again for joining us for tonight's forum, Value Creation, Our Unlimited Power to Face Overwhelming Challenges. In reviewing the registration list this week, we're thrilled to see that many friends of the center, both near and far, are participating tonight. And while we would typically host the forum at our center in Cambridge, one of the benefits of this webinar format is that so many of you from other parts of the country and even the world could join us from your homes. So as background on this series, especially for those of you that may be new to Center's programs, this event is part of our annual Ikeda Forum for Intercultural Dialogue, which is now in its 16th year. In 2004, we launched the forum with the aim of exploring connections between hope-filled philosophies deriving from literary, cultural, and peace traditions. In the course of the forum's history, we've examined a wide range of themes, including the transformative power of dialogue, respect for the dignity of life, interdependence as a framework for peace, and the development of the democratic spirit. Central to each of these themes has been an investigation into how these ideas might be put into practice in the participants' lives. And over the years, we've been extremely fortunate to have worked with a number of accomplished scholars, authors, students, and youth leaders, and tonight is no exception. As we began brainstorming on potential themes for the 2020 forum, a year filled with one pressing challenge after another, we quickly decided that perhaps the most fitting focus would be to examine how to find and make meaning in the face of such challenges. How to create value in a year such as this? This question led us back to the writings of Center founder Daisaku Ikeda, who has explored the theme of value creation in many of his peace proposals, lectures, and dialogues, always highlighting the personal and social implications. In one such passage from his talk at Teachers College University in 1996, he writes that, quote, "Our daily lives are filled with opportunities to develop ourselves and those around us. Each of our interactions with others, dialogue, exchange, and participation is an invaluable chance to create value. So what does a life committed to value creation look like? Over the last month, our panelists have been meeting regularly and engaging in a deeply inspiring dialogue on the theme of value creation and how it can be applied in response to overwhelming challenges. And not just to make it through those challenges, but to use them as a catalyst for individual growth and societal change. As a staff member, it has been a transformative experience to listen to and participate in these intergenerational dialogues. Our panelists have been examining the theory of value creation and its implications for this current moment, as well as practicing it in their daily lives and fostering deep bonds in the process. And then in that sense, the planning for the forum itself has been an experiment in what it means to create value. So on behalf of the center staff, I would like to deeply thank our 5 panelists, Dr. Anita Patterson, Professor of English at Boston University, Dr. Jason Gula, Professor of Bilingual Bicultural Education and the Director of the Institute for Daisaku Ikeda Studies in Education at DePaul University, as well as our incredible youth panelists, Anna Lane, William Moody, and Vivian Suanowski. We're deeply grateful for all the time, input, and reflection that they've given in preparation for the forum. And the planning sessions themselves have been deeply stimulating, joyful, and hopeful. And I expect tonight will be the same. So I'll end with a passage from Mr. Ikeda's message to our very first forum in this series. While it was written in 2004, it reads like it could have been written this year. He begins with, quote, "Our world today faces a multitude of grave challenges. The contours of our future are extremely difficult to discern." He continues asking, quote, "How can we forge connections between people and realize a civilization of creative coexistence that will embrace the whole of humankind?" While there are many ways in which this can and must be approached, I wish to stress the importance of dialogue across difference. For what is common to the ills that afflict us is the rejection of dialogue. And I firmly believe that the more severe the challenges we face, the more critical it is that we persist in dialogue, because dialogue has the power to break down the walls of mistrust, hatred, and division in the hearts of people everywhere. So with that vision in mind, I again welcome you to the 2020 Ikeda Forum. Thank you again to our wonderful panelists and to each of you that is joining us tonight. So now I'll pass it again back to Lillian. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And so up next, we have our events and publications coordinator, Henri Tanabe, who will lead us in tonight's icebreaker activity. Let's welcome Henri.
Thank you, Lillian. Hello, everyone. We hope you're all doing super well this evening, and though we can't see you in person or through the video stream tonight, we would still love to be able to get to know you a little better and to have a chance to get a feel for who's in the Zoom room today. So if you've ever been to our events before, or maybe you've participated in this activity, you may be familiar with something called Kahoot. So what you'll need for this activity is actually either your cell phone or another browser, if you can open it up on your laptop, but you'll want to be able to see both at the same time. And once you have that, please pull up the website kahoot.it, and I'm just going to share my screen here. It's kahoot.it, and don't know if you can hear the music, but Kahoot.it will ask you for a game pin. So the game pin is 9182077. So if you can see that, please type that in. And then, yes, I see some of you are already on. Wow, you guys are so fast. Thank you, everyone. This is exciting. Please enjoy the nice holiday music to this Kahoot. If anyone's having any trouble getting on, of course, you're also welcome to just listen and vote in your head. But hopefully we can get many people on. So again, the website is kahoot.it. The game pin 9182077. Yes, and you can put your real name or you can put a nickname. All of the responses will be anonymous. So I see we have some people with their full name, nicknames, Lion 2020. We'll just give you a couple more seconds to get on. So great to see everybody. Wonderful. Hello, Happy. Great, so I think we can get started. This is just going to take you through a series of some questions, some fun questions. So let's start. 2, 1. Great, so the first question is, what has been your favorite quarantine snack? I know I've been doing a lot of snacking recently, so if you like chips, chocolate, ice cream, or veggies, please put your response. Wow, chocolate is the winner with chips as a close second. Awesome, I love all of these too, including veggies. So our next question is, what is your favorite 2020 streaming service? Have you been watching a lot of Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime? Or those who have not been watching, what have you been reading? So there's a none, I have been reading section also. I know I've watched more TV than I've ever before this year. Ooh, Netflix is the big winner. Yes, and many, many readers too, so that's exciting. Great, the next one is your 2020 motto has been, as we approach the end of the year, are you no more please? Are you I can't wait for it to be over? Are you bring it on? Or are you value creation all the way? Let's see what your mottos are. Wow, value creation all the way is a big winner too. Thanks everyone. And the next one is, of the following, in which area of your life are you facing the most overwhelming challenges? So this comes from our title, but what kind of challenges are you facing the most right now? Either finances, health, work or school, or relationships? Maybe all, but which one are you most overwhelmed with? Great, wow, yes, relationships, work, school. Okay, the next one, what does value creation look like to you? Is it engaging in difficult conversations, tapping into your creativity, volunteering in your community, or making money? There's no right or wrong answer. Wonderful. Yes, lots of engaging in difficult conversations. It's a great place to be. How often do you feel like you are creating value? Do you feel every day, sometimes, often, or rarely? In your own ways, how do you feel you've been able to create value, and how often? Yes, great. Every day, lots of everydays, some rarelys, but looks like many people are creating value every day. And the next question is, the process of value creation is it easy for you, something you're working on? Is it challenging, or do you feel like it's impossible? Those who say easy, I hope you can teach me some lessons. Great, something you're working on, and challenging is the big middle. And our last question, what do you hope to gain from today's webinar? To understand better what value creation means, to learn how to create value in your own life, to be inspired by how others are creating value, or all of the above. Wonderful, yes. we will be doing all of the above. So yes, thank you so much for giving us a chance to get to know you a little better. And I will pass it back over to Lillian.
Thank you so much, Henri, and thank you everyone for participating in our Kahoot icebreaker. I'm not gonna lie, I really wanted to say veggies for the quarantine snack, but I want to say it definitely is chocolates. My roommate got this, and it's pretty much all gone, and it's really all me. So thank you, and so sorry, roommate. Anyway, all jokes aside, just as Kevin shared earlier, over the last couple of weeks, the center staff had the wonderful opportunity to meet and engage in dialogue with our 5 amazing panelists on the concept of value creation. And so, as a staff member of the center, I thought I had some understanding of what value creation means, from reading Mr. Ikeda's writings. However, I realized in many ways the concept remains still just in my head or on an intellectual level. But in these dialogue sessions over the last couple of weeks, I was so blown away to see this idea of value creation completely come to life as each panelist engaged with the concept, applied it in their own lives, and then came into these sessions just sharing, these incredible experiences. So you're all in for a treat this evening. So you'll get to hear their individual journeys with value creation, what it looks like and feels like to use value creation in their lives, and how we might use it in ours, and how it can impact the challenges that we face right now as a society. And we'll also, as I shared earlier, have an opportunity for Q&A afterwards. So please feel free to submit any questions that you might have in the Q&A box, and we'll try to answer some of them afterwards. So I think I've said enough, and I'm sure you're all thinking, let's meet the panelists already, Lillian. So for the moment we've all been waiting for, I'm so pleased to welcome our incredible 2020 Ikeda Forum panelists. Hello, everyone. It's so wonderful to see all of you. And yeah, I'm so excited for our participants to get to know each one of you. It's definitely been my great fortune to be in dialogue with you all in these last weeks. And actually, I was just reflecting yesterday. I think it was maybe at our first or second planning meeting, I had asked you all if you could be an animal, what animal would you choose to be? And I remember we ended up with a dog, a dolphin, a zebra, a raccoon, and a pig. And I just was, I think, thinking, how deeply meaningful, but also how fun it has been to be in these conversations with you all. So maybe our attendees can guess after the panel which animal you all chose. But anyway, I want to invite all of you to briefly introduce yourselves, and tying back to our theme today, value creation, our unlimited power to face overwhelming challenges. If you can share, one overwhelming challenge you faced in 2020. So the floor is open.
Well, I'll start. I'm Anita, and thank you for inviting me here. My overwhelming challenge has been to maintain a forward, hopeful perspective for my daughter's sake, as well as for my own. And my feeling about it is that I have to overcome a fear of racial conflict and social division. I wake up very afraid. And I think some of my fear is coming from my family history. I come from a very mixed racial background. My mother's Japanese American. She was interned during World War II. My father's family is Russian Jewish American, and I married an Afro-Jamaican American. And I'm thinking about my daughter and how she's going to, kind of perceive and be received in our society. So I want her to be in a place where there's a lot of sort of affirming of dialogue and resolution of differences in that manner rather than through violence.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Lane. I live in Belmont, Massachusetts, and I work as a tutor and a nanny. And my overwhelming challenge this year has been to fight my urge to just throw in the towel and kind of give up, and like watch, just like sleep or want to relax. I mean, relaxing is important, of course, but kind of in more of a way where I'm avoiding reality. That's something I really struggle with. So yeah, fighting to want to give up. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. So excited.
Hi, everyone. My name is William. I'm joining from New Orleans, Louisiana, and I am a kindergarten teacher. And, I've faced many challenges this year, but I would have to say that, the biggest challenge that I faced is just maintaining a belief in my own ability, to continue to be hopeful and, to really be able to, really inspire others in my environment. And, I've also really been challenging my tendency to not really listen deeply to others. And so, that's been a very, challenging experience, but very rewarding. I believe I've made some progress with this, participating in this. So thank you so much, everyone.
Hi, I'm Viv. I use she, her, hers pronouns. And in the spirit of value creation, I'm trying to put into practice land acknowledgement. So I do want to quickly give one. Right now I'm on Massachusetts and Pawtucket Indigenous land. And I'm 19, I'm a freshman in college. And an overwhelming challenge that I have experienced this year has really been having to sit with myself because of the massive amount of free time that I have on my hands, and really being confronted with my own self-destructiveness, which often manifests itself in stress. So yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jason. I'm in Chicago, Illinois, the greatest city in the United States. And I would say my major obstacle this year, I'll say two. One is challenging the joy I actually feel at being forced to stay home. I love being home, and I'm trying to challenge that because I should be out doing things. Then the second is maybe what was already shared by a lot of people, maybe you as well joining us, and that's, not allowing all of these external forces that seem beyond my control to somehow snuff out my belief in my own agency to change things. And that has been a real struggle, a daily struggle. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. And Jay, I thought we almost converted you to be a Bostonian when you were here for a couple months, but I guess Chicago is still near and dear in your heart. So we'll keep trying. But yeah, thank you all for sharing your one of, I'm sure, many overwhelming challenges this year. And I'm sure it's been that way for our participants as well. We're actually now at 309 participants. So I'm sure you're all thinking about your overwhelming challenge right now as we're sharing, which is why I feel so grateful to be able to relearn this idea of value creation together with all of you as this power that I have, not someone else, but that I have to not only face, but transform, anything that comes up in my life. So, I think based on the first of all, I think based on the Kahoot icebreaker we did earlier, we might have attendees who are hearing about value creation for the first time. And so, Jay, actually, I thought if it's okay, as someone who lives and breathes value creation, in your work and in your personal life, maybe if we can invite you to share first a little bit about value creation from the perspective of your work and research, and from Mr. Ikeda's perspective as well.
Sure. So I would say Daisaku Ikeda's perspective of value creation is informed by that of his predecessors, Josei Toda and Tsunesaburo Makiguchi. Makiguchi developed his theory of value relative to what is called the neo-Kantian notion of value as truth, good, and beauty. And he argued that truth in and of itself does not define the value something has in our lives, but rather it is the subjective meaning we create from that truth. That is, from the moment-to-moment realities of our day-to-day lives. He termed this gain, and thus substituted gain for truth, arguing that value is comprised of gain, good, and beauty. And beauty is just whether we like something or not, perceived through our five senses, and gain is that which benefits the entirety of our lives on an individual or personal level. And good is the same idea, but in a kind of quantitatively bigger scale, impacting the larger society or community. And creating value means striving to take action that accomplishes all three of these aspects simultaneously. And maybe understanding that the value of good outweighs that of gain, and where gain surpasses beauty. I would say Daisaku Ikeda echoes this perspective, stating, quote, "All life has the fundamental desire to create value. Value is a relative notion. And in this world, this tapestry of relationships, life is always seeking to create ever better relationships. That is, ever greater value." He continues, "Life tries to weave a more beautiful tapestry, a more useful tapestry, the value of gain, and a better tapestry, the value of good." So for him, value creation is simply the capacity to find meaning, to enhance one's own existence and contribute to the well-being of others under any circumstance. And as Kevin shared in his opening remarks, Daisaku Ikeda states, our daily lives are filled with opportunities to develop ourselves and those around us. Each of our interactions with others, dialogue, exchange, participation, is an invaluable chance to create value. And more specifically, he asserts that, quote, "The most fundamental and central value is that of life itself. The fundamental criterion for value is whether something adds to or detracts from, advances or hinders the human condition," unquote. And so I think it is in this spirit that he extols value creation as a force for peace. He articulates this in multiple ways, such as by advocating value creating dialogue and by establishing a strong and contributive and thereby consciously interdependent life condition. And he offers two quotes that I think are really important toward this end. He says, "The human spirit is endowed with the ability to transform even the most difficult circumstances, creating value and ever richer meaning. When each person brings this limitless spiritual capacity to full flower, and when ordinary citizens unite in a commitment to positive change, a culture of peace, a century of life will come into being." And he also says such a way of life is centered on what we would now call empowerment, in particular the empowerment of others through instilling confidence, offering them the gifts of hope and courage. This is a value creating and contributive way of life dedicated to realizing happiness, both for oneself and for others. And this way of life, taking root among countless individuals, he says, has the power to transform communities and indeed change the entire world, moving the tide of history in a truly creative and peaceful direction. And toward that end, in 2014, he advances three concrete aspects of value creation for global society. The first is value creation that always takes hope as its starting point. Next is value creation of people working together to resolve issues. And then third is value creation that calls forth the best in each of us. And I'll conclude with this. He says, I think it's important for us to remember hope here is not passive wishful thinking. It's a serious and engaged determination to bring the fullness of one's life and others to bear on the world. It also conveys Daisaku Ikeda's belief that value creation is possible by anyone, anywhere, and comes from within. Such hope-filled value creation is an ever-present and unlimited agency that transcends all boundaries of race, class, gender, age, geography, or circumstance. And as he states, quote, "Herein lies the significance of the effort to create value in the place where we are right now, through the words and actions to which we alone can give rise." But he makes clear, though, that our own individual value creation is enhanced when brought into dialogic collaboration with that of others toward the unrelenting pursuit of peace, justice, culture, and doing good to improve the life for oneself and for all humanity. So I'll end there. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jay. The thing I love about value creation is I think you always share that it's not this definition that we arrive at. and that it's ever evolving depending on our own experiences. And I feel like even after having been in so many dialogue sessions with you all, even tonight, listening to you again, it's like evolved since the last time we met. And so, yeah, for all of our panelists, I know we've had a number of dialogues on the concept, and you all come from such different backgrounds and experiences. So, I was wondering how your understanding and thinking of value creation has evolved as well, through this process of planning for the forum. Yeah, and I was just thinking, Anita, when Jay was sharing, when we've had these planning sessions, Anita, you've come with these like unbelievable stories that like blow us away and kind of spark our own thoughts. So maybe Anita, I can invite you to kind of kick us off with what you've been thinking about.
Yeah, I have loved these dialogues. And I think one of the first things that I've learned is not to think of value creation as a kind of philosophical concept associated with education. I really have been trying to apply it to my life in really concrete ways as a mother and as a teacher and as a person. And the first thing that I've learned is that dialogue, honesty, soul-bearing dialogue, transformative dialogue is so hard and it's so necessary. And I've also realized that there's a kind of relationship building that comes about in the sheer act of sharing. I've been so inspired by the panelists. This has been a hard time for me in many ways. My mother was ill. I looked forward to these dialogues as times of community building and engagement. And this sounds like an intellectual aside, but it's not. Ever since I met Coretta Scott King when I was in 4th grade, Martin Luther King's, philosophy has meant a lot to me. I teach at BU where he got his degree, and he talks about a network of mutuality, a single garment of destiny, and listening and thinking about Daisaku Ikeda's kind of description of what he called, the world is woven of profound bonds and connections. I'm really understanding now that dialogue and building this network is precisely what creates value. I have felt in our discussions these kind of generated ripples of positive impact that he talks about. I am convinced, and I can only hope that this will continue and expand outward to my family, friends, and colleagues around the world. So thank you all.
Thank you, Anita.
Yeah.
I was just going to share that, to be completely honest, I still really struggle and grapple with the idea of value creation and what it means. But I think that something that is ever evolving is, in my own mind, something that's very trustworthy, because it's always changing and it's always adapting to our needs, which is exactly what is beautiful about it and what is needed, especially in this time. And I was going to say that, especially over the past month of talking about value creation, my idea about it has changed. And a couple of points that really stuck out to me and that we had been talking about a lot in our conversations were, and I think this was an idea that Jay brought up about how value creation is free choice and is seen as like a choice that you take on. And I was just thinking about this option of choice and freedom, and how that actually directly values our existence, because we have the option to take on this challenge, which is very different. It's really different when the challenges feel different when you decide to take them on rather than when you're forced to take them on. So that ability to choose makes everything seem much easier.
Thank you so much, Viv. That actually reminds me of, Anna, something that you had shared in terms of like how you've been really thinking about the history of America and how, it might be in some ways discouraging right now to be reflecting on what is happening in our country, and how do you create value from the past, right, from history. And Viv, your point of like, it's this choice, you know, that we all have to engage in, and like that kind of, you know, volitional like process of engaging and making meaning in things. It just reminded me, Anna, I don't know if you have continued to think about that and if that's evolved since then.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, Lillian. And yeah, I feel like what Viv and Anita shared is so, it's making me think, like Anita, you shared about a ripple effect. And it's like this active process, value creating, you know, thinking about value creation. So I just have been reflecting on, you know, it's not this like finite end that, you know, okay, now I know what value, I've created value now in my life. And so this is the end of that experience. But I've been feeling like, wow, it's this real active moment to moment process. And it's like empowering, like Mr. Ikeda says, that, you know, it's empowering. I felt empowered thinking about it that way, because it's not like I have to do it all by myself, or it's something that I need to figure out right away, but it's more of a moment to moment process. And yeah, thinking about like the history of America, and even thinking about my own history, and like the history of my own life since when I was born, and how it relates to, you know, growing up in America too, is yeah, something that before I kind of felt a little embarrassed sometimes when I think about, I don't know, the ways that I used to act when I was younger, or especially like in high school. Like I just think about, I was so unappreciative, or I was so like cavalier about struggles in society. But looking back now, I'm like, wow, I can really create value out of even situations where I wish I had acted in a different way, or things like that too. And I feel like maybe that can relate to America's history as well.
Also,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Viv.
okay, this is just a quick little sentiment, but another realization that I've really come to that Anna reminded me of is that this practice of value creation some people are value creators, like just their existence in themselves creates value in spaces. And so I think that's just really powerful to think about, that you just as a person existing in this time are creating value. Just as you breathing and waking up every morning and getting out of bed and doing things, you're creating value just as you are.
That's actually a great, you know, segue to this next question that we've been exploring. You know, this moment to moment struggle you talk about, Anna. I think when I think about value creation, it's like, that sounds great, but what does that look like in my life? But in talking to all of you, I've kind of caught myself in moments of struggle or frustration, or, you know, kind of like pausing and saying like, all right, Lillian, well, what is the value creating moment, you know, in this situation? And so I wonder, you know, for the panelists, how have you seen it, you know, beyond kind of this first understanding it in theory, but then like it really coming to life, you know, in your experiences, personal experiences in the last couple of weeks? I know we had some Thanksgiving dinner conversations. Will, you had a great one. I don't know if you'd like to share that, but yeah, just maybe for the participants, like, all right, like what does that really look like in a real life situation?
Yeah, I'd love to share. You know, just as many people mentioned, value creation, it was a very intellectual, you know, kind of, or it was just an idea to me before really engaging in these dialogues. And, you know, it's so wonderful to actually be able to see, you know, or recognize, you know, when these opportunities arise in your daily life. And, you know, it's definitely inspired by so many of the other panelists, you know, to really be able to see these experiences for what they are. And one of them, as you mentioned, Lillian, over Thanksgiving, I was having dinner with my family, and just had, you know, ended up kind of having an argument with my dad, and you know, just some things about the experience didn't go exactly as I, you know, had wanted them to go. And I kind of overreacted and ended up leaving, you know, my dad's house. And then, you know, the next morning, I was actually having a dialogue with my sister, or I didn't intend to have a dialogue with my sister. Let me say that, first I just probably normally would have just, taken this fight or this experience with my family and just pretended like it didn't happen. That was kind of, my norm. But, because I've been thinking about, dialogue and, really trying to challenge myself, in this way, I talked to my sister, and, through this exchange that we had, I was able to realize that I have a tendency to sort of, really cling to my expectations of certain situations. And that when things are different than what I want them to be, it really disrupts me, and then, together with my sister, I was able to see this, aspect of myself. She was able to help me see it. And then I made a determination, to really work on that. And so, I think value creation, I've learned, is really, how can we create meaning, as we've, shared, Mr. Ikeda, really explains value creation in that way, that, there could be something negative that happens to us in our life. And we could just, say, oh, that's negative, and just try to keep going, or just avoid it, and just put it aside. Or we could use it as an opportunity, to really, reflect on ourselves and really, transform some aspect of our life, to improve our own existence and improve the existence of others in our world. So yeah, I just really appreciate, this experience of being able to see it play out in my daily life. And that's one of my, small examples. There are many more that other people have too.
I'd love to jump in there. I also had an incredible experience that's a little bit different, but it had to do with my classroom. And as I mentioned, my mother was interned during World War II, and it's a legacy of pride, but also of trauma. And I really, really kept it at arm's length. And we were we were reading together this text by Mine Akubo, which is a memoir, an autographic memoir of the internment. And I decided, partly because we were doing these dialogues together, I'm going to make this real. I'm going to engage in a dialogue with my students. And I went into a crate that has all these documents that my mother kept from her internment. And I shared with my students one document that was teaching the internees how to eat with a knife and fork. And I was just shocked by how mixed, how much pain, shame, I had mixed feelings I had about this document. And we had this wonderful conversation about Americanization in the class. And one of the things I realized over the course of our talking was that my whole life, my reading and studying and writing about American literature is essentially has a continuity with my mother's internment experience. I want to be nourished by this tradition. So, it's sort of like a very complex kind of knives and forks situation. But it was really, really powerful with my students being able to share that. And in fact, afterwards, I found this in my mother's crate again. I found an obituary of Mine Akubo, and that opened up a discussion with my mother. Why did you have this obituary in this crate? Turns out my mother met Mine Akubo on her deathbed in New York, and that our families had, these sort of connections in the past. But it's so important, I think, to be able to introspect, Will, the way that you're describing, because as you get old, things build up and you become silent. It's just really nice to engage and share. And that's how we go from beauty and gain, I think, to good.
Can I just share one quick thought? I mentioned this when we were talking, and I mean, these experiences I've heard before, but they seem so much more powerful even now. What's amazing to me is the idea of value creation kind of as an orientation in life. So rather than life happening to you, how can I sort of be the agent of my life? And no matter what circumstance I'm faced with, how can I make this good in some way? And something I didn't share in the remarks earlier, but Makiguchi said, someone who can create values of beauty, gain, and good can lead an authentically, almost existentially happy kind of life. And the one thing I was saying is that I think value creation doesn't mean always, in many cases it does, but it doesn't always mean I'm really happy now. See how I'm creating value? This is so great. Because it really challenges us to transform a sort of tendency that maybe doesn't create value, or doesn't create the most value. And so it pushes us out of our comfort zone. But I think in that reflective stage, or sort of after we've done some action, we can really feel this kind of fullness of life that we didn't have before. And that sort of drives us to continue creating value in other ways, in other circumstances. So a great example.
Yeah.
That's really exciting, because it, kind of connects to what Viv was sharing about the choice that we have and how we're creating our future, by choosing to create meaning out of everything that we are experiencing. We have this limitless potential to grow, but it really comes from having that courage, to make a choice, in this moment, that I'm going to use this circumstance, to engage in that kind of, that growth.
And I think it was Anna who said during one of our dialogues about this idea of the furnace, that it's not fun, it's hard.
Do we have a catchphrase that it's not, that it's really hard when you're doing it, but it feels great afterwards?
Yeah, that was value creation. It doesn't feel good, but it feels great afterwards. That was our motto. What you all shared reminded me of something Anita had touched upon in our panel, in our dialogue sessions. Anita, you were talking about, value create, Mr. Ikeda's point of value creation, using hope as a starting point. And you had said that, you had originally thought, well, doesn't hope come after value creation? But for him, hope is an action, and that comes first. And that kind of makes me think about this year of 2020. And I think based on the Kahoot survey and just like talking to a lot of my friends, like most people feel so done with 2020. It's like, can we just kind of speed through the next couple of weeks, and 2021 better be, much more amazing than it's been this year. And so I think one of the reasons we wanted to talk about value creation for this year's Ikeda Forum is not wanting, any of us to end the year feeling like 2020 was just another year, or, but that to really be able to make meaning out of this year. And then, using value creation, right? How do we create even greater value in this year coming by transforming like our present moment? So I wonder, for the panelists, like, how do you see value creation being relevant or important as we close out 2020, but also as we kind of look ahead to the many challenges that we still face as a society in 2021? Yeah.
I really feel like in thinking about moving into 2021, like how we're talking about hope as a starting point, I feel like that's so important that we have like hope as a starting point, and not in a way to put pressure on ourselves. Like, I have to think about this in a hopeful situation, or as I have to think about this situation in a hopeful way, but that we have the ability to think about it in a hopeful way, which, once again, I just feel excited thinking about it that way. I can have hope in this situation, and we can do it together too, once again, like through dialogue. And so it's just, so great to like be talking right now too, because it's helping me like get out of my own head and feeling like I don't have hope towards 2021 too.
Yeah, it's this idea of hope. Hope is a decision. It's such a terrific thought.
Yeah, Ikeda has this essay where he writes hope is a decision. And I shared this with the group, but I don't know if all the people watching maybe know, Lillian mentioned that Daisaku Ikeda is a Buddhist leader. And the organization that he leads is an international organization, and they give a kind of annual theme for the year. And I think this started, I may be wrong, but I think this started in 1959. And since they've been doing that, the theme for 2021 has hope and victory in the theme. And so I think this is very much in rhythm with the kind of question you're asking. And and he says value creation that always takes hope as its starting point, but also he says value creation is sort of encouraging other people to give them hope, to help them find hope, to help them find courage to move forward. I think in doing that, even as we're, struggling with our own, we mentioned all these obstacles at the beginning, that is a tremendous kind of value that can be created. And it may not be tangible. I remember the first time I heard this concept, it seemed very abstract to me, very kind of hard to get my arms around. And it doesn't have to be the sort of massive scale things, but just in the moment, talking with someone who's really struggling. How do you help them find hope to just take one more step? Have the courage to move forward in some way. I feel like after 2020, this year of just, endless giving of stuff we don't want, 2021 can be we still have time in 2020, but 2021, all of 2021 can be a time to really actualize that with our own life. So
yeah. I actually also was thinking, I remember Viv mentioned imagination and value creation. And that's really inspiring to me because I think about imagination a lot, working with literary texts, but to see the power of imagination and, in thinking differently about your world is such an important capacity, I think.
Yeah, I kind of cultivated that thought from the quote that I think Jay had mentioned about that Daisaku Ikeda had said, where value creation is the capacity to find meaning. And for me, that directly translates to the capacity to ask questions, because I find that finding meaning is asking questions. And so when we are in that place where we're asking questions, I always introduce myself whenever I'm in class. I'm like, I'm the person who loves to ask questions, because I never take anything at surface level. And the imagination and asking questions is directly connected, because the next step after asking those questions is to start imagining what you actually want your space to look like, what you want the next steps to look like. And that means that you have to activate your imagination, which sometimes isn't there because, our society is harmful in many ways, and doesn't want us to really imagine our freedom and our liberation. So
yeah, and those questions are what we learn from as well. I mean, the students who ask the questions, the young people who ask the questions, is where wisdom comes from.
Yeah, it reminds me, Viv, as the youngest on our panel, I think we all look to you in terms of, leading us into the future. And I was just reading, maybe Jay, you shared this quote earlier as well, but it's from one of Mr. Ikeda's peace proposals. And he talks about how what is most strongly required of us is the imagination that can appreciate the present crisis as an opportunity to fundamentally transform the direction of history. And yeah, I think in that seeking spirit that you have, Viv, that you're talking about, is rooted in our ability to imagine and to open our minds to something beyond what is the reality of the present moment, and to be able to see past that. So yeah, you encourage me to ask more questions as well. And I think we're kind of getting towards the end of our panel, but I was really thinking, now I'm really looking forward to 2021, but also feeling all right, I got to do something about 2020, and I'm not going to let 2020 just end in this way. And, I was thinking about the participants, and all of us, just in these conversations, and thinking about something that, we can end this panel and then go back to our daily lives and everything can be the same, or we can really use value creation every day. But I think it's so hard for me to remember sometimes, what does that really mean? And so, Will mentioned this earlier, we've kind of came up with this motto spontaneously that I've been using every day, value creation. It doesn't feel good, but it'll feel great afterwards. So I always try to remember, it's not feeling good right now, Lillian, but if you do it, it's going to feel great. So I'm thinking that maybe for our participants, it might help them, if they can kind of walk away with a few mottos that they can use in their own lives as well. So maybe, we can invite you all to share your value creation mottos with all of us this evening to wrap up our panel discussion. Whoever wants to go first.
I'll go first. And this is sort of drawn from Daisaku Ikeda's, it's his aphorism, which I just love. But then what I did was I kind of wrote something in response to it. So there's something very short and then a short sentence afterwards. So that it starts, now is the starting point for everything. And then I am uniquely situated and must be willing to give history an unprecedented turn, striving to create that value which is mine alone to realize in order to benefit all humanity. So the thing is, now is the starting point for everything.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I worked on mine and I came up with this: with courage and hope, every negative can become a positive.
Beautiful.
No one wants to follow those. I didn't prepare one.
You're like writing yours on the side, Jay, like scratching off over
like this. I feel like not every, I think value creation, there are times where it can be really joyful in the moment. I really do believe that. But I feel like every moment of life is sort of pregnant with the possibility of real value. The task is, how much value are we going to create from it? That's the task before us. Are we going to create a little value or something of great value? That ultimately is where agency lies. So much of education today, I think, it sort of talks about agency as, once we give it to people, then they can sort of change their environment. And once the education system changes, I'm in education, once that changes, then their agency can take effect. I think the beauty of value creation is, no matter how old you are, no matter how young you are, no matter what context you're in, value creation is possible. And the sort of scale of your life sort of expands in equal measure to the value you create from it. So it's so exciting.
I can share mine next. I also was like, that is difficult to follow, but I think mine is take one step forward, never give up, which definitely learned from Mr. Ikeda, and like, yeah, just take one step forward, never give up.
Wow, that's so sweet and simple. Mine is kind of a jumble, but I'll be quick. So I wrote down, listen to your inner child, imagine and ask questions. Nothing is ever set in stone. Recognize your own value, because only then will you be able to create it.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm going to print that out and I'm going to tattoo it on my arm, and I'm just going to walk around with that until it like is ingrained in my life. So yeah, thank you all so much. I was just, reading through the different things that we've shared, and one quote keeps coming to mind for me from Mr. Ikeda, and maybe this idea of hope is something that I think has really come through in all of your experiences, and it's definitely making me feel more hopeful about the future, despite nothing seeming so hopeful right now when you turn on the TV and watch the news. And so I thought I could maybe wrap up with this one quote from Mr. Ikeda, in which he says, "The power of hope that is available to any person under any circumstance and which can inspire future generations, this is the foundation of the effort to create value." So I feel like we're building that foundation together here, and I hope we can continue to do so, all of us, and then all of the panel participants joining in as well. So let's give a round of applause to our wonderful panelists this evening. Thank you all so much. I wish we could continue, but maybe next time we can meet on Zoom again. So we actually have many, many questions, 43 questions, I think, that have come in throughout this panel discussion. So some way, you know, I hope we can capture all of them, but just because of limited time, we won't be able to respond to all of them. But our staff have kind of sifted through the questions and tried to find ones that have similar themes. So we have time, I think, to maybe go through 3 of them, but I want to read our first question today, and then, you know, for the panelists, whoever, you know, wants to respond, please jump in, and then we'll move on to the next one. So our first question that came in today is, value creation is such an active, mindful process that we engage in each moment, every day. And often students and young adults feel hopeless given our current economic, social, and political circumstances. How do we pragmatically inspire them to feel assured that we are practicing value creation each day? Does it work to think of value creation in this way? Yes, so if anyone wants to respond to that first. So what advice would you give young people right now?
I have a slightly different approach to that question, but that's something I think about a lot as a college teacher. And the main thing that I think about is that no matter what you say, it's what you are that people are going to react to. So if you're not creating value, if you're not feeling hopeful and positive, you're not going to communicate that to your students, no matter what you say. And I genuinely feel that it's part of, you know, old people's responsibility to look ahead, not to sort of see this kind of, you know, decaying view of life, because it's for the rising generation. And we were given that, you know, it was a different time. And I want to give that to young people everywhere.
You know, I've been teaching this for like a while, you know, for a decade or so, and we have a whole program based on it. And I always ask students, well, how do you create value from that? You know, and pre-service teachers, you know, are you asking yourself, how do I create value from this? And are you asking your students, based on what we learned in class today, now what value can you create from that? With an explanation of what we mean when we say value, you know, like, and then that just becomes kind of a normal practice. And students who are teachers that I work with say that that has really revolutionized how they think about the material. It's not just content to learn, but it's content that they use in order to, you know, shape their life and society with beneficial impacts, and it brings them joy. So that's how I would answer.
Thank you both. Yeah, I wish I could take a class of yours, Anita. I would love to have a polished professor like you.
I would love to have you in class.
We should all take a class with Anita someday on value creation, maybe. And yeah, thank you so much, both. So we're going to move on to our second question, and this is a really interesting one. So how, in your view, can we use this concept of value creation to enrich the myriad technocratic solutions to environmental and justice issues? I have someone in mind to respond to this one first, but yeah, if anyone wants to jump in.
I was thinking about, you know, wisdom, actually, even in the previous question, and just the connection between, you know, that Mr. Ikeda connects wisdom and compassion, and just thinking about all of the challenges that we have, you know, and then also, you know, thinking about Viv's comment regarding our imagination, you know, how do we bring forth the wisdom to be able to address, you know, these challenges? And Mr. Ikeda, you know, basically, you know, says that when we, you know, live a contributive life, and he shares a Buddhist maxim that when we light a lantern for others, our own way forward is lit. And then in another passage, he talks about, you know, how wisdom wells forth in inexhaustible profusion when we are moved by a compassionate determination to serve humankind and to serve people. And just, you know, thinking about those things, and how, you know, when we really strive, you know, to help other people, that really activates, this inherent imagination that we have to solve, a challenge that we're faced with. So I'm not a climate expert, but, I definitely think this applies, to trying to solve, those challenges.
Thank you. Wow.
And just a thought, I mean, it's another way of knowing and learning that, it's another kind of knowledge. And in that sense, you talk about technocratic solutions. This is another kind of solution too. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, he really, I think the 2014 peace proposal, if you go to daisakuikeda.org, you can see all of his peace proposals over the past decades. The 2014 peace proposal is the one where he mentions value creation that always takes hope as a starting point, value creation of people resolving issues together, and value creation that brings out the best in everyone. That's all contextualized in a kind of sustainability approach for civil society and sort of the world. So that I would encourage whoever asked that question to really get into it with Daisaku Ikeda, read his work, and really look at how he's addressing it. And also he addresses it within the context of the Sustainable Development Goals. So I think that would be a great one to look at.
Thank you, Jay. And Viv, I don't, want to put you on the spot, but I think, since you were young, since I've known you, just your relationship with nature and your understanding of that, it has always inspired me. And so I've been meaning to ask you, how has engaging more in value creation, has that kind of impacted your way of thinking about environmental issues, or how to encourage, others also to think differently? And so I know you've talked about trees and all kinds of things with us, but I wonder if there's anything that you wanted to add to this question too.
Thank you, Lillian. Yeah, I have been studying trees in school for one of my classes, in the ways that they exist and how they communicate with each other. And so I learned that they actually talk with each other through like an underground system, which is, it's a symbiotic relationship that they have with this fungi called mycorrhizal. I don't know how to pronounce that correctly. And so the fungi gives the trees this network of roots underground, and the trees give the fungi sugars and nutrients to live. So they're living off of each other. And I just thought that that relationship is so beautiful. I don't think we see symbiotic relationships enough in our human population. We see it a lot in other nature, in other species, but not in ours. And I was thinking about how I could connect that to value creation. And I think we need to have a symbiotic relationship with value creation, because creating value in our lives will create a network. Like, we will be able to create a network through that value creation. And then the thing that we give back is that we pass that term on through the network that we've been given to other people. So it's like consistently getting bigger and bigger. And then to bring it back to the environment and how we can really like root ourselves in nature, is that just kind of this reminder that, we are nature. We are amongst nature. Every time we step outside, there's a tree. I was listening to an Indigenous woman named Teresa Ryan. You should look them up. They talk in TED Talks a lot. And they were talking about how trees are the oldest teachers, and they're patiently waiting for us to learn from them. They're just outside. They're just waiting patiently, because they have all of this knowledge that we can learn from them. And I just think that really like grounding ourselves in that every day will change something within us, because we're made to be like amongst nature. There's no doubt about it. That's why we're suffering so much.
Thank you so much, Viv. Yeah, that reminds me of Anita, when we had our dialogues last year. You had talked about how when you're feeling down, you like to look up underneath, at the light coming through the tree leaves. And I never realized how powerful that was until you had told me about it. And I looked up one day. So yeah, thank you so much. So this comes, we're time for our final question, and coming back to this theme of hope, which is a wonderful way to end our Q&A. So our final question this evening is, hope is the starting point to create value, but how do we create hope given that the reality is so hopeless? So how do we create hope to be able to create value? So how do we have hope as a starting point, I think essentially is this question. And yeah, Anna, again, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know you've been fighting, you talk about Mr. Ikeda's way of talking about like the smelting furnace of struggle, and how you feel so hopeless in so many situations. So I wonder if you want to kick off this question, maybe how do you like create hope when there seems to be no reason to feel hopeful?
Sure, I'd love to try and answer. And honestly, I gain a lot of hope from reading Mr. Ikeda's writings, to be quite frank. He has so many dialogues that he's had with many different people, and he's just written so much. And so when I read even like a short sentence or something, it really inspires me to like take a step forward. So I usually start there, because in my own head, I can just go spiral into different places. And I feel like so many of us feel this way. And yeah, I can, like each one of us on this panel definitely has so many experiences of really gaining hope from Mr. Ikeda's writings too. So that is like one concrete way that I can gain hope, because it's so true. Like where do you start if you want to have hope? Because watching the news doesn't necessarily create that hopeful spirit, or doing activities like that. And then, yeah, and maybe reaching out to a friend too. Also talking with a friend really helps me create hope. Like over the summer, I was really struggling with writing my thesis for graduate studies, and it was my friend in the program who really helped me like turn a corner with my writing. And she just talked to me and listened to me, and it wasn't even this mind-blowing, well, it was a mind-blowing conversation, but it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. But she just listened to me, and she's on the other side. Then we were able to connect, and she really helped me turn around. So I wouldn't have been able to do it without her. So yeah, friendship too.
That reminds me, Anna, about something Anita had shared. And Anita, I don't know if you're willing to share this here too, that you found that one of the best ways to create value is to, and I don't want to, share incorrectly what you shared with us, but it's to kind of understand or to think about the connections we have in our community and with others. I wonder, Anita, if you can share something about that too.
Sure. I mean, basically, I profoundly feel that looking to one's community and feeling that those connections are present, that, it's so easy to feel totally alone, and we're not alone. And Anna, what you said about reading Daisaku Ikeda's writings, that's a dialogue. Emerson's got this great statement. He says, whenever I converse with a profound mind, there's something about it that gives us a sense of profound connection with other people, and not to feel alone. I mean, the worst part of it is feeling alone. Yeah.
Can I share one
yes,
quick?
please go ahead, Jay.
So two of my doctoral students, one has graduated, one is still earning his doctorate, just wrote a chapter about hope based on Daisaku Ikeda's ideas. And they break down the Japanese word, the two characters for hope. And the first character means rare, and the second character means to kind of look out far over the future. And they write that, so in order to have hope, we have to be able to imagine a possibility that may be rare, and that also requires of us not just sort of understanding what is, but really to push ourselves, what can be, And by having that sort of possibility, we can move ourselves forward. It's a really compelling chapter that they wrote.
Thank you so much, Jay, and thank you, everyone, and thank you to our participants for following, Viv's lead of asking questions. So many questions. So, yeah, I hope we can continue this conversation well beyond this forum. So, thank you all once again. And now that we've heard from all of our panelists, I think everyone is ready to practice and experiment with value creation themselves. So to help us continue our value creation journey beyond tonight's forum, I would like to invite our program and office assistant Priyandra to introduce our takeaway activity. And thank you once again to our panelists this evening.
Hello, thank you, Lillian. I am Pri, and to introduce this activity, I would actually like to share a quote that I really love from Mr. Ikeda, which I think beautifully articulates what value creation looks like. And so he says, quote, "You will pass through storms and you may suffer defeat. The essence of the creative life, however, is to persevere in the face of defeat and to follow the rainbow within your heart," end quote. And so if you were tuned in from the beginning, you saw that we had some of our center friends submit value creation statements with photos of themselves. Here's a quick reminder of what that looked like. We have shout out to Gabriella if you're on this webinar. We had our amazing new friend Gabriella submit, quote, "To me, value creation means to flourish in the midst of the most adverse scenario with the spirit of never giving up. It means to believe that it is possible to change the environment through our positive actions." Such a wonderful statement. Thank you so much, Gabriella. And, after having participated in this event, we hope that you have been inspired to think of what value creation looks like for you too. And this is what we are calling value creation statements. And because we were so inspired by the submissions we received for this introductory video we had, we would love for everyone to take a few moments, I should say, right now to type in the chat, which is now open, what your value creation statement is. And for some of us, that might start off like value creation to me means, or value creation is, or you can just go ahead and write whatever is coming out of your life. And I will take a moment to read some of the ones that come through. So please start flooding the chat with your amazing value creation statements. Lillian, value creation, it doesn't feel good, but it feels great afterwards. I love that. Value creation is 9 thoughts to 1 word. Ooh, very poetic. Value creation is power. Value creation is deeply considering the opportunity to add value to every moment. Value creation to me means reflecting on my life every step of the way and taking action. Oh my goodness, these are all amazing. Value creation to me means never giving up. Someone put, every day I write down, what can I do from today? That is so great too. Great question to ask ourselves. I'm going to start asking myself that too. Value creation to me means never giving up on myself and moving even 1 step forward from now. It means to have courage, not give up. A lot of similar themes. I love this. We have a shared mind in terms of how we want to persevere in the midst of our struggles. Let's see. Value creation is inclusion. Yes. Value creation means that I strive to become happy while helping others to become happy too. Such a compassionate response. Value creation is a good struggle. Love that. Yes, it is. It's like one of those struggles where everyone's like, congratulations, opportunity for creating benefit. Value creation is moving forward from what is to what you would like it to be. Ooh, wonderful. Value creation is to be present. Value creation to me is commitment to turn obstacles into opportunities. Maybe I'll read a couple more. Value creation to me means to be the change I want to see in the world. Yes. Value creation is hope at all times, spurred by one's determination to act. That volitional inner work, inner transformation that we do. Yes, 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 we are all about that. Value creation is finding hope in every moment, awakening to your own power to create hope, having hope for our future, the most meaning to your life sometime from simple things and values. En español, no avanzar es retroceder. Value creation is being of service to humanity. I wish I could just read the whole list, but one thing I can say is we will make sure to collect all of these. So you will find them somewhere on our website. So though I won't be able to read them out all today, please be assured that we are seeing them, we are reading them, and they will be accessible. So I think for now, I'll close this part of the activity. You can keep posting if you would like, but I did want to, in order to keep this value creation momentum going, there's an opportunity for you to, if you wanted, post a selfie with your value creation statement on your Instagram or Facebook, and you can tag us at Ikeda Center, or you can use the hashtag 2020 Ikeda Forum, and or use both for an opportunity or a chance to be featured on our social media. So, and do not fret if you do not have either of these platforms. As I said earlier, we will be compiling all the value creation statements that we received in this chat, and we will be posting it on our website. But if you wanted to take a screenshot of this really quick so you have these directions for later, that would be great. And with that said, I'm gonna pass it back to you, Lillian. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pri. Don't you just want Pri there with you, reading these value creation statements every single day? I want Pri's voice, Pri's energy, repeating these value creation statements to me every day. And I'm also very impressed, Pri, by your ability to read all of the wonderful value creation statements that came in so quickly. And so thank you all so much. It's amazing to see all of your value creation statements. And so thank you once again, everyone, for your participation. And, we're coming, unfortunately, to the end of our virtual forum. And so thank you all for your participation and your long attention. And so tonight, to wrap things up for us, let's welcome our wonderful Executive Director, Ginny Benson, to share some closing remarks.
Thank you, Lillian. And thank you, everybody, for participating. In a webinar, it usually isn't possible to participate, but you found some ways to do it, to break through, and we love those statements. Thank you, Pri. So first of all, I'd like to thank every last person who took time out of their busy, over-Zoomed lives to join us tonight. Probably our biggest surprise in the last several weeks has been the huge response we've gotten to this Ikeda Forum. There are more than 500 RSVPs and more than 300 people participating. So clearly, at a time when we're all facing overwhelming challenges, everyone wanted to hear about the idea conveyed in the title, The Unlimited Power of Value Creation. I also would like to express appreciation for tonight's panelists who took many evenings of their precious time to study the readings that were excerpted from Mr. Ikeda's writings and participate in planning meetings, which you've heard about during the last several weeks, with our young program team who have organized and led tonight's event. Anita Patterson called these meetings inspiring communal conversations. And they truly were, because in the time between each one of their meetings, the panelists all looked for opportunities to experience the full power of this concept in their own day-to-day lives. And then with really moving honesty and enthusiasm, they shared the positive results with each other at planning meetings. And as they have done tonight. These communal conversations in this sense have now expanded into the lives of all of you, hundreds of points of light. Thank you, panelists and program team. The germ of the idea for this forum came from members of our youth committee who have been sharing with our young staff the issues they are facing in today's world. In this additional sense, tonight's forum was not just youth-led, but youth-initiated too. These young friends had two particular concerns. They said that they see hope even in the midst of all the turmoil and suffering going on in our communities, but they find very few opportunities to talk about it. They also said they want to know how to have difficult conversations. Tonight, I think we've learned together, thanks to these young people, how value creation relates directly to these two concerns. In closing, I have one very exciting announcement. Actually, you'll be the first to know this piece of news outside of our immediate staff and board. But we decided that on this very significant occasion, our 16th annual Ikeda Forum, we should let you know something that will not become official until January 1st. As of January 1st, the Ikeda Center will have a new executive director. It's Kevin Marr, our current program director, who gave the opening remarks tonight and has worked tirelessly at the center with great skill, sincerity, and organizational brilliance for the past 18 years. I am overjoyed to have the privilege of announcing such an outstanding and experienced successor. And I'm confident that the center and its amazing team that you've seen in action tonight will be in good hands during the next chapter of its growth and development. Meanwhile, I will be happy to have a less demanding schedule after 27 years with the center. And as senior executive advisor, I will delight in supporting Kevin from the wings as he takes the lead. Thank you all for this chance to spill the beans and rejoice in the knowledge that the center will have youthful energy and fresh ideas in the forefront. And all of you, I hope, right along with us, helping to build cultures of peace through learning and dialogue with all of our connections. Thank you very much for your participation and your patient attention. I'll invite Lillian to close the forum now.
Thank you so much, Ginny. I think it's a very emotional night for all of us as staff at the center. And just on behalf of everyone, thank you so much, Ginny, for always warmly supporting us and encouraging us and being there for us, guiding us. And so thank you so much, and congratulations to Kevin. And thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Thank you to our panelists, our wonderful panelists. And thank you to all the 300 plus participants who joined us this evening from all around the world. So please look out for a write-up on the event in the next couple of weeks. And we will also post a recording of the webinar on our YouTube channels. So stay tuned, and we hope to hear your value creation stories, whether through email or social media. And we look forward to seeing all of you in 2021. And so have a wonderful evening, everyone, and let's create value in 2020. Thank you so much.
Thank
Good
you.
evening, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.